And joining me now is Virginia Democratic Congressman Gerry Connolly. And, Congressman, take us inside the House Democratic meeting this morning. There were some members initially, as I understand it, who were open to blocking the motion to vacate yesterday. What did Leader Jeffries say to get you all on the same page this morning?
I think it was really less what Leader Jeffries said than the whole conversation in which we reminded ourselves about the issues that surround Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. How he got to be Speaker, how he said the right things on January 6th, only to turn around 2 weeks later and genuflect at Mar-a-Lago and became Super MAGA, tried to prevent the January 6th committee from even meeting or considering the events, tragic events of that day and what followed. And of course, taking 15 votes to become Speaker and making promises that really depleted the value of the speakership with every round, and then not keeping those promises. And so there were issues of integrity, issues of performance that were of concern not only to Democrats, but to Republicans.
And Congressman, as I understand it, there was an actual tape that was played at this meeting of Speaker McCarthy essentially trashing Democrats. Is that how you would describe it? Is that correct? And
yes.
Tell me about that moment. Is that what did it?
I don't know. I think it goes in Political 101 textbooks going forward as maybe one of the most crashingly stupid things somebody could do on the eve of your survival vote. Certainly by Sunday, when Kevin McCarthy went on Face of the Nation, he knew that the only chance he had of surviving his speakership was with Democratic support, tacit or otherwise, to thoroughly trash Democrats for providing the overwhelming support for the continuing resolution that he supported and put on the floor Saturday was a huge misstep and could only, frankly, clarify the thinking of anybody who was considering wavering on his behalf in our caucus.
How do you see the next few days playing out?
Well, we are organized, so that makes it different than, say, a new Congress lacking a speaker, as we did in January. So there'll be a temporary speaker, and we will have to have another series of votes to elect a new speaker. And with the removal of Kevin McCarthy, I think the contours of, well, what does that entail, are going to have to be debated. Will we have some kind of power sharing? Will we, in fact, have a broad bipartisan coalition that elects a speaker who's more bipartisan? Or will we, in fact, go the narrow partisan road again, leading to more instability? That's an open question yet to be decided.
Congressman, is that realistic? Any sort of power-sharing agreement? If you couldn't get that with Speaker McCarthy, what makes you think you could get that with whatever other speaker is elected?
I think that's a fair question, and I think it's probably a long shot. But I think we could never get that with Kevin McCarthy. With the vacancy, with a new speaker, you know, there can be the opportunity for some fresh air and fresh looks at how we operate and how we're structured. I think, you know, Democrats are not unrealistic about the set of considerations and demands we may put forward, but that doesn't mean that we aren't entitled to some pretty important changes in how we behave around here, how we're structured, what the rights of the minority would be. And I think that would be a very healthy thing for the institution to re-examine and maybe reconsider.
How do you explain to your constituents, Congressman, what's going on right now?
Well, I'm blessed with a very well-informed electorate in suburban Washington, many of whom have worked up here or are certainly familiar with this place. So my constituents are, you know, laser focused on what happens up here. Will the government shut down was on everybody's mind over the weekend. And now everybody looking at what's happening on the Republican side of the aisle. This dysfunction and chaos really raises questions in their minds about the ability of Republicans, frankly, to govern.
And Congressman, walk me through your decision process over the last couple of days. You said, from what you just told me, that it was Speaker McCarthy's interviews over the weekend trashing Democrats that largely, sealed his fate. Was there at any moment, at any time in the last few days, where you even considered saving Kevin McCarthy?
Whether I did?
Yes.
No. I have real clarity about that. It's not personal, but I think there are real integrity issues with respect to Speaker McCarthy. He's done a volte-face and about-face on numerous issues. I mentioned January 6th, but he did the same on the debt ceiling agreement. The ink wasn't even dry when he breached the agreement that he signed and shook hands on with the president and with us. And then, of course, he did the same thing on impeachment. He was the loudest critic of the previous impeachment of President Trump, saying that's got to come to the floor of the House for a full vote. And yet he turns around and directs unilaterally an impeachment inquiry based on no evidence. It's a fishing expedition. So he broke his word there, too. And of course, we hear numerous stories on the other side of the aisle of his making promises to this or that faction, only to, frankly, breach them and break his word. I think you can't operate that way. I think, your word's got to be a bond around here. And I think we need that fresh start. So I never had any illusions. I might add one more thing. Frankly, Kevin McCarthy is a conservative Republican. He's antithetical to the values and the agenda that I, as a progressive Democrat, hold dear, and most of my colleagues. And we needed to remember that what would be the purpose of preserving him as Speaker, given his record?
And Congressman Connolly, one final question. And for those viewers just joining us, these are live pictures of this vote to oust the Speaker of the House, a potentially historic moment in the House of Representatives. Congressman Connolly of Virginia, there's some talk of Democrats reaching out to moderate Republicans about forming a coalition to elect a new Speaker that would govern potentially more smoothly from the middle. What do you think about that? Is that realistic?
Probably not, but it's worth a try. Let me just say, if you look at certain votes, the debt ceiling vote, the continuing resolution vote Saturday, the votes on Ukraine aid, there's a broad middle in the House, huge majority, well over 300 people in that category. So allowing them to come together and run things smoothly and make things work would make a lot of common sense. Our partisan lines preclude that. Maybe with the removal of Speaker McCarthy and the election of a new Speaker, we might have a fresh start at that.
Congressman Connolly of Virginia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.